After receiving a mysterious party invitation, Vincent Slice and Dice and Helen Legosi decided to accept the invitation and seek out the sender. The instructions led them to a decrepit, old, forgotten cemetery and to a mausoleum which, unbeknownst to them at the time, belonged to none other than Count Dracula. Reluctantly, they decided to knock.
Well, nobody's answering. Let's go.
It's Vincent Slice and Dice and Helen Legosi. Let me introduce you to the guests.
Oh, hey man. Did you guys bring the blood for the Bloody Mary?
What are you looking at? Haven't you ever seen Bedroom Eyes before?
It's gonna be a hot time in the old morgue tonight.
Don't you choose the bright and bushy tail.
Anybody see any loose nuts and bolts laying around? I think I lost one.
You are having a good time.
Lovely party. Pity you weren't invited.
Now that everyone has arrived, let's party till dawn!
Travelers who visited remote parts of Transylvania in the 16th century returned with strange and horrifying tales of creatures that were neither living nor dead. Creatures that left their haunts at night and feasted on human blood. These monsters went by various names: Verulac, Vampire, and Vampire. Although similar creatures are recorded in Greek, Roman, and Hebrew mythology, the story of the vampire stems almost entirely from Eastern Europe, from the Carpathian Mountains, Transylvania, and other areas in the Balkans. Two concepts lie at the root of the vampire myth. First, that an evil spirit can take over a corpse and use it for its own purposes. Second, that the soul of a person considered too wicked to be allowed into the realm of the dead can continue to inhabit his own body in the guise of a vampire. The mythology of the vampire is remarkably detailed and specific. The Transylvanian species, for instance, is said to be recognizable by its gaunt appearance and pale complexion. It is said to have full, red lips and pointed canine teeth, gleaming eyes with a hypnotic gaze, long, sharp fingernails, eyebrows that meet, and hair on the palms of its hands. Its breath is said to be foul, and its diet of blood endows it with superhuman strength, despite its cadaverous, emaciated appearance. In addition to these characteristics, some European vampires are said to have red hair and a hair lip. The Russian vampire, according to legend, has a purple face and is believed to have been, in human form, one who rebelled against the church or was perhaps a witch. The vampire stories abound with a wealth of detail. Vampires found in Bulgaria had only one nostril. The Bavarian variety slept with its left eye open and its thumbs linked, and was held responsible for cattle plague. The Moravian vampire was addicted to throwing off its shroud and attacking its victims in the nude. Albanian vampires wore high-heeled shoes, and the Brazilian type had feet that were plush-covered, which presumably indicated a velvet tread. The Chinese vampire, according to its chroniclers, drew its strength from the light of the moon. The American species, from the Rocky Mountains, was said to suck the blood from its victims' ears through its nose. And the Mexican vampire was recognizable by its fleshless skull. Accounts of the vampire's powers vary from country to country, but the monster has been credited with the ability to assume a variety of animal shapes, such as bats, wolves, and with the power to control all the creatures of the night. Methods of combating vampires seem to be as numerous as the species themselves. Some Romanians believe that the best day to tackle a vampire is Saturday, which is the one day when it is powerless to leave its grave. What is the method of disposal? Pour a basin of boiling water into a hole near the grave. Such a hole, Romanians believe, is a sure sign the occupant of the grave is a vampire. Others claim that vampires can be discouraged by sprinkling chalk and holy water, but those in favor of a more direct method prefer to drive a wooden or iron stake through the creature's heart as it rests by day in its grave. To make absolutely sure, cut off the vampire's head with a spade and fill the mouth with garlic. The rays of the sun are said to be fatal to a vampire, and the crucifix is also held to be a powerful deterrent. In Eastern Europe, the search for a vampire's grave involved a ritual in which a virgin boy riding a black virgin stallion was led through a churchyard. The tomb where the stallion first halted was presumed to be that of the vampire. The vampire's origins varied considerably from country to country. In Romanian tradition, if a vampire stares at a pregnant woman, there is a strong chance that her child will become a vampire, one of the so-called undead. So will a corpse over which a cat has jumped, or a dead person with a wound that has not been scalded with hot water. But by far the most common method of joining the clan is to become a vampire's victim. Once the nocturnal visitor has drained the blood of its human prey, the victim dies and in turn is condemned to walk the night as one of the undead. In Serbia in 1727, it was reported that a peasant had fallen from a cart and broken his neck. From then on, his neighbors declared that he entered the houses in the village at night, and those people he visited always died. His body was exhumed, and his shroud was found to be saturated with blood. The corpse was burned by the villagers, and his ashes were scattered. By the late 18th century, the vampire was an ideal character for stories set in mist-shrouded castles. In the early 1800s, the vampire made its first appearance on stage. Writers such as Alexander Dumas churned out blood-curdling plays about the exploits of these creatures. In 1897, Bram Stoker, a relatively unknown Irish writer, published Dracula, which became the undisputed classic of vampire stories. Inevitably, Hollywood made a movie of the novel, first of the U.S. vampire thrillers. The 1931 film starred Bela Lugosi as the bloodthirsty Count, and millions watched in terror as the fearsome prince of the undead accomplished his fiendish deeds. Hollywood responded to popular demand with as many variations of the vampire theme as the imagination would allow. Among them, The Mark of the Vampire, Son of Dracula, starring Lon Chaney Jr., House of Frankenstein, with John Carradine as Dracula and Boris Karloff as the monster, and Brides of Dracula. Often repeated on television, the films have ensured immortality to Dracula and his fellow vampires. And to this day, every media is filled with endless and entertaining and imaginative vampire tales. And may we never know the rest of the story.